it's always a search for the deeper meaning and truth, the essence of what makes someone come alive. And certainly that was part of the catalyst for me ultimately as well. A greater calling, something that wouldn't leave me alone. And that's where the artist is, because I always have been an artist. So I'm really a stand for people really embracing how amazing and unique they are. So I'm always listening for that. And that was part of the process of having people come alive in truth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bridging the Potential podcast. I'm your host, Renee Poindexter, and today I have one of my most favorite people, Linda Rasch from Minneapolis or St. Paul, and she is our artist in residence, I should say, as part of our Living the Potential network. And I've had the great pleasure of working with Linda, for about 6 years now. Is that right, Linda?
I think so. It feels a
That's
little
right.
longer, but I think that's about right.
I know. We kind of look at time and go, there's no time in eternity, and time's going by fast when we have fun. So
Yeah,
it's
for
just,
sure.
yeah, it's just a beautiful gift that you are because, as you know, when I wrote my book, Living the Potential, I came across this favorite quote. It sort of put things in perspective. It's like, well, it's from the Shoemaker Briefings from the Global Ecology College. There's a book called Sustainable Education. And this quote says, art leads science by 10 years, science leads business by 10 years, and business leads education by 10 years. So the artists are 30 years ahead of education. And when I read that, I went, where are all the artists? And why aren't they leading? God knows we need a little help in this 21st century as we're trying to figure out what does it mean to be a spiritual being having a human experience. So it seems a little messy out there. So lo and behold, who do I meet? Linda Rasch. So Linda, you're an intuitive artist, and when you heard that quote, art leads 30 years, what did what message came through for you about that?
It was just a giant question. I'm like, what does that mean?
Right. And
And it
that's
was like a drum that you kept beating. I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know.
right. But I figure if the artist knows, even though they don't know that they know, right? So that began our collaboration over these last 6 years. And you actually took some time to go deep into what does it mean to be an artist and how am I leading and where's it coming from? Because my view was artists create something from nothing. It comes from some place. It's not necessarily from the mind. It's coming from beyond the mind, maybe beyond, certainly beyond the ego. You got to let go of your ego and your personality in order to really receive what wants to come through. It's almost like you're a channel. So, over the years of you exploring, what is this process of leading from the inside out with your intuition and creating? So, what would you say came through for you in terms of coming up with that understanding?
I think it came to me. It was a need that I had. I think that's often how it works. Um, and I there's pain of not having clarity in some areas, needing and desiring to not feel overwhelmed by the demands of being an entrepreneur. I mean, literally, this has happened over the course of like the last, 13, 14 years, even though I've been an artist my whole life. That was really the catalyst, I guess, kind of like this grain of sand that gets into uh, the oyster.
The oyster shell, it creates that tension, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that idea of flowing with allowing, you say you are an entrepreneur, but very curious in life. It's kind of interesting how it's taking you some time to really own that you're an artist. And because you found your art showed up in lots of different ways, a lot of people, you've been listening to a lot of people and their why, would you say? How many
Mhm.
interviews would you say you've been doing, and what were you looking for as you were doing them?
Well, it's been several thousand over the last 10 years. And for me, it's always a search for the deeper meaning and truth, the essence of what makes someone come alive. And certainly that was part of the catalyst for me ultimately as well. Uh, and a greater calling, something that wouldn't leave me alone. And that's where the artist is, because I always have been an artist. So I'm really a stand for people really embracing how amazing and unique they are. So I'm always listening for that. And that was part of the process of doing so many interviews and uh, yeah, having people come alive in the truth.
Right. Exactly. The truth for them, because the truth is, it's like,
Yes,
oh, we could
exactly.
have a whole
For them.
show. We could have an eon or two about the truth, right? But your
Right.
idea is about the truth for them and the truth for you.
Yeah.
And so holding space for so many people, over 1,000 people,
Hmm.
to be seen and heard and fully self-express. What would you say you've learned about people as a result of that? In other words, especially you have compassion for the entrepreneur
Hmm.
and the seeking of clarity, what would
Hmm.
you say to entrepreneurs that are listening to this? If they're looking for clarity, where's the best place to start, for clarity and understanding the whole creative, expressive way of a livelihood,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
What have you
Thanks for
learned?
asking. Yeah. Well, it does start with clarity. That is really the origin of it. That certainly was what happened for me. When I got clear, things just started to drop into place. So that's the first thing for any entrepreneurs. You must get clear. And there's many levels of clarity. There's that one that's about who you are and your purpose and what it is that makes you come alive and what's true for you. That's the only truth that really matters in this case. But then getting unstuck and taking action on what it is that's coming through is like really essential. And ultimately, those answers come from within.
Right. And sometimes we just don't know. The mind tricks us, right? So as an entrepreneur, I mean, when you go through traditional education, so to speak, all those MBAs out there, oh yeah, when I get my MBA, I'll have clarity, right? But that's kind of a myth, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you asked a question that was a really great one. What I learned, and what I've learned about people, and this is part of my journey, right? This is not, I'm no exception. Um, is that all these ideas about what's right and who we need to be and how we need to show up in the world in order to navigate and to do the things that are required. And, ultimately there's an end to that. And then wait, what was that all about? Right. When we're following someone else's formula and listening to that, which we are all really susceptible to because as children, we didn't have really agency to say, no, I don't believe that. We are like, oh, okay. As an artist, I was told there's no money in that. Don't do that, and I was like, oh, that was really strong. That was kind of forceful. And I didn't do that. I studied communication arts in college instead, which was amazing and has served me well and has all come back together. But here in the work that I do today, but it's that need and that uh yeah, it's a little stronger than need. It's like a requirement
Hmm.
that we really listen to what is coming through each of us, what it is that our heart is saying, those different clues that we get. They come in different ways for each of us, but it's essential that we're listening to them, paying attention to them, not discounting them, especially as they relate to things that we have passion and that really make us feel alive. Alive seems to be the word of the day today.
Right, exactly. Well, and it takes, it's almost like we have to unlearn some things in order to be open to receive what wants to come through us. And sometimes that starts with the inquiry or the question. And I've, been in several of your masterminds. And one of the big things that I think people are faced with is they feel they need to know in advance before they attempt any kind of creative expression or project and so forth. And what have you learned about that? It's like, because that seems to be a strong issue with a lot of people.
It
I need to
is.
know, or I don't want to look bad, or I don't want to get this wrong, or there's a lot of fear about, not
Yeah.
looking good, or what is all that wrapped around anyway?
Well, I just think it was some well-intentioned adult or person with authority who said, your horse didn't look like a unicorn and there was no such thing as unicorns or whatever, right? It's like
Right,
it's like, oh, and here was something that you loved and it was like it was your heart and it was like, oh, that's not that. Oh, okay. So this getting squashed in the creativity, I think is a real common one. Am I doing it right? We're taught to be good children, sit in our seats and, don't look out the window and be distracted or whatever we do. So I could go on
right,
and on about
right.
that. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's the programming that, that if
right,
it feels good, that's something else I've learned is that for so many people to do what it is that we love feels indulgent. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, and I actually had a painting tell me that as well. And its message was create indulgently. Let it go, let it flow, release that need to get it right because it's only in the showing up and making a mess that those answers are going to come and we're going to notice all that stuff coming up, all
right,
those voices, all the
right,
notions, and there's no making it right or wrong. It's just being with it, noticing it and working through it and making a mess and the message comes through.
right. Even when you don't expect it. Like
Yes.
you said many times, and I wanted you to tell the story like we're on it right now about the little girl who was painting a picture and the teacher asked, "What's that?" Do you
Yeah.
remember that story?
Yes, I do. I was almost going to say it earlier, so we're on the same wavelength.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
The story goes that this little girl was painting this, drawing or painting this painting, and or drawing, and the teacher came by and says, "Well, what are you painting?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm painting God." And the story, I think it was Tara Brach who said it, where I heard it, is that the teacher said, nobody's seen God, and the little girl said, "They will in a minute."
Exactly, exactly. And it's almost like that's partly why we have this intergenerational learning community here, is because when you bring the youth with, middle age and older folks in conversations about things that matter, like trusting yourself and cultivating your learning from the inside out, a lot of adults have to unlearn a lot. And the young people sometimes will say, wow, you carry a lot of baggage there. And the older folks look at the kids and go, they're so bright, they're so available, they're so with it. And it's so true that if we allow ourselves to unfold, like that acorn to become the oak tree or
Mhm.
that, butterfly to emerge out of the cocoon, it's like, it's amazing who we are becoming. And that's what I think all that work that you did with the why, with thousands of people, unfolded something for you that deepened your why. Do you remember what that is? Because I kept prodding you and going, what's the method? Do you have a method? We need to help people bring out their inner artist. Do you have it? Do you have it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you discovered it. You had it all along, but you didn't know you had it. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I just need to say yes to it. And that is the invitation, right? The question about is about the process, I think.
Right, because it's also about like you're talking about messiness and like it's like unfolds when it's not so much that you have when you're actually doing the full intuitive self-expression that wants to come through, the mind hasn't quite wrapped around it yet. And
Yeah,
that's a foreign thing because most people feel like if I don't have my mind on what I'm doing and I'm following something else,
right,
I have to trust that.
right.
So you learned how to be that you yourself, which included letting go of a lot of stuff and
Mhm.
then stepping back, right? And
Yes,
so you say, I mean, this is kind of an embedded question is
yeah,
you had to let go to be present to how the art speaks for itself.
right.
That was beyond what you could have conceived in advance.
hmm
Could you explain how that came to be or that process? I mean,
hmm
it's a deep question, so you can answer it any way you'd like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'm going to just preface this and say that as everyone's listening today, I'm inviting you to listen, not just, for, oh, well, I don't paint, or it could be really any form of creative expression. Okay, so I just want to make that clear right now. Um, for me, my medium is painting. Um, I I started to take oil painting lessons, and I was really good at making the painting the waterfall. But what I found, or whatever it was, I found if I was connected to what my subject matter, I was much more successful because I could get into the feeling space and not just into the headspace of does this look like a waterfall? Am I doing it right? So that was a kind of a breakthrough. But I still found myself being exceedingly nitpicky and critical, and I did not enjoy that. And so even though I had a great result, it was like, oh, I just didn't like the process. And I started to just paint. I got picked up a medium I'd never used, which was acrylic paint. And I just started to just move paint around and create what ended up being intuitively. I didn't know it at the time. I was just responding to the need to not have this voice tell me what to do. Um, and my logic was that if I did that, that critical factor, that part that wants to insert itself, couldn't really have an opinion about it. And so it could quiet that, all of
Hmm.
the over-analysis and the
Right.
paralysis that comes around that. And it was truly successful. But what happened next was really surprising because I started to find that just in doing it, and there's stories that have, people have studied doodling and how powerful that is. The arts have such a profound impact on us on so many dimensions. I found just in doing a form of art called Zentangle, which was, creating these repeating patterns, which is kind of meditative. What came through was really there were messages there. And it didn't just happen in the Zentangle, but there were some very, very specific ones, like the heart that was sort of stitched up around the edges, like the seams were being stitched together, and just literally, psst, listen to me came out. I was like, oh, that was a direct message, like what? So, and then I started to just, move paint with acrylic and the same thing, just not really just intentionally, just not thinking, getting into the flow, letting go of the need to control that. And at that point, I had a friend in my life who was kind of a coach, and she said, "You should go to psychic fairs and paint." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And so she saw it, like you saw things, and I then had people show up and just ask me to paint for them. And I found that very uncomfortable place of being in that space where I didn't know where it was going or what I was painting or why, created something that was absolutely powerful for them, specifically for them. And I was allowing myself to be that conduit without knowing it. And that was profound. And I love that the most. And I started to do it as part of a daily, what I call a spiritual practice. And one of the first steps in this process is to just show up, not when it's
Yeah.
convenient, not when you feel inspired, just show up and do it. And I did. Um, I started to really experience healing and clarity and insights that were undeniable through my work. And it's led to a lot of other things, including a methodology that you spoke to about how to do that uh, in a methodical way in order to
Right.
gather those insights. So I hope that's what you were looking for.
Oh
That was a
yeah,
lot,
absolutely. Well, yeah, but
but yeah.
that's the journey of how does one find one, back to the entrepreneurial calling
Mhm.
and how to really trust what wants to come through, even though there are other messages that go, well, if you want to do this, you got to do it this way. There's all these 12 steps for this and 8 steps for that. And the idea is like, well, when the steps come through from spirit, like the spiritual practice that connects to your heart,
Mhm.
and you kind of get your mind out of the way. And that takes some training. It's like taming the snake or something, You got to get it out of the way
Yeah.
enough to have the source, to be able to have the source come through and trust. And so the one thing I've noticed is like for you, you did a painting for me before we even met, really. I was doing a big fundraiser, a big event in Washington, D.C. called the Garden Experiment. And you created a painting. I think you're wearing the
I
outfit.
am.
You're wearing
I
the
am wearing
outfit.
it.
Yes, the beard. It's on the back. Do you want to turn the back a
Oh,
little bit?
okay.
See it?
Let's see if I can stand up
Yeah,
tall enough to see it.
yeah. You have to pull up your hair.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Hello. Okay.
Right. Right. There you go. Vibrantly interconnected.
Vibrantly interconnected. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's clothing. You have a clothing line, by the way. Anybody wants to wear their art, or wear Linda's art. She's got a beautiful clothing collection. But vibrantly interconnected came through. And you really didn't even know that I had a 5-step method for helping people get connected to nature and find their inner calling for their sacred contribution. You did a painting, and that was going to be, for the auction that we were doing as a part of this event.
Yeah.
And when I saw the painting, I went, "This is my painting. I can't auction this off, right?" But it's like you tuned in and drew that and painted that beautiful painting, and I just love it. I think and you've done this for so many people, executives, doctors, people of all callings that, are going, will you paint for me? So is there a story also besides mine that you'd like to talk about?
Oh my gosh, so many. Let me just tap in for a moment. Just considering also those people who may be present listening to this recording and what might be of most interest. Hmm. There's one that just is popping in pretty clearly. I don't have the painting right here, otherwise I'd show it to you. Oh, it's in there in the corner. Um, There was actually a naturopathic practitioner who came to me and I painted with her. And in the process, she got very clear about what it was that and this is what it's about, right? It's a process for creating clarity. When we're not thinking, trying so hard, we're not trying to get it right, or even when we're not honoring, not trying to uh, honor the need not to want things. I think not wanting things or not desiring things is part of a program that we have. So outside of that, in this is space of me painting with her and as a coach and as a intuitive, the questions that I asked helped her connect to what she truly desired. And it was a very, very visceral and visual scene. There's so many different dimensions of how she felt. Memories often come in and get woven in. And I found that by the time we were done, there was a painting it called itself Manifesting It All, that really
Wow.
represented all of the things. She was a master manifester, but had felt kind of stuck and not really having things flow for her. And uh, her feedback to me was that that was one of the most profound pieces that, experiences she'd had in a lot of therapy. It was like, I'm like, this isn't therapy, but it is therapeutic, right? I'm not a
Right,
practitioner in that
right,
regard, so I have to make that
right,
caveat. But um, that it was as unique as her thumbprint and something that she would treasure her whole life. The funny part of the story is that she ended up manifesting what she wanted so quickly that she bought a Sprinter van and didn't have a place for this art to go on the wall in the Sprinter. So she sent it back to me and I have that piece today, and it's
awesome.
really meaningful.
Yeah,
Clarity,
right. It's
that
beautiful.
connection, vibrantly interconnected. I think the levels of that, kind of weaving in your painting, are just the levels of connection that we make in our experiences and what, again, makes us feel most alive and is important and true and what we value and what we truly desire. And that all came together.
Right. It's so beautiful. So, and it's such a model of that we already have it within. And you're like a intuitive artist that's holding space for people. And you can see it sometimes in them that they can't see it in themselves, but through your collaboration, it shows up in an art form. And then they recognize themselves in ways that it's a new, what do I say, opening to fully embracing self-expression.
Yeah.
It's like a birth. It's like what you call a revelation. Is that right?
Yeah, I call it a revelation. I like to make up words, they just
Yeah,
happen.
I do too. I do too. So it's like it's a vibrantly bold, it's like,
Mhm.
really a beautiful way I call it a vulnerable, being vulnerable and being bold. It takes courage to really trust yourself enough. And you've
Yeah.
done it. I think it's so cool how you shared your over 10,000 hours of doing the why work as a facilitator, coach extraordinaire, helping entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
And you continue to do that with art in a way in which people can discover it for themselves. And you do have a 5-step method. Is there anything you'd like to say about that today? Because I know that people are going to want to learn more, so we don't have to go through all 5 aspects. But
Right,
what would you say are some of the most important aspects for them to know about how to
right.
learn to trust themselves from the inside out?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, the Linda Rasch method is its name, and it is really all about creating that clarity. And the first step really is to show up, and to, I think, even sort of a pre-showing up is like, what is it that you desire? What is it that you would love? And whether you know it's possible or not through the act of creation, whether that's painting or making music or writing poetry or whatever that form of self-expression is, the main thing is that we must be listening for it, and we need to show up and kind of and cultivate that. And so I always just say the first step is show up, show up, show up, show up.
Right.
That is really the first and foremost thing. And the second is really just let go of the outcome. Um, this isn't about making something, beautiful. It's about making space for that to come through. So letting go of the outcome and tuning in, like noticing the voices, all the different ways that we are getting, constantly talking to ourselves, listening for
Mhm.
what wants to move through. What are you being called to express? And what are you being moved to work with next in the context of painting? It's like, this brush, this color, and just move, being fluid about that, allowing, listening, and following that thread, right? Not overthinking. Again, that one thing leads to the next, that leads, before you know it, you're creating something, and it's like, whoa, where's this going? It's like, oh, 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 like it's literally
Mhm.
like that. And then the opportunity then is, the final piece of this is really to create that space to reflect upon it. Like, what came through? What surprised you? What felt true? And that happens kind of in the moment as we're with it. But then there's also space that we create intentionally to be with the creation without judgment, without the need to make it be anything in particular, to just be present to what it is that it wants to communicate. Because I really believe that in so many ways, these things have a desire to express and to speak
Exactly.
themselves to us. It just
Exactly.
happens to be a medium for that.
Right. It's a way of birthing something that is beyond the mind. That's the best way I can describe it. And it's deepening, I notice in the mastermind, and you have masterminds where people can come and, learn to unfold together, creating that space, creating that safe place, and co-create together, which is really powerful because one of the gals in our group is a poet
Mhm.
extraordinaire. And it's kind of interesting. I'll be painting and she'll be writing, and then sometimes we're all on the same page about a message.
Right?
It's kind of synchronicity extraordinaire. And that's why I love the magic of being with others who are not afraid to play. I think there's an element of play that comes in here that
Mhm.
most adults have forgotten. It's like work is work and play is play, and never the twain shall meet. And I think that's erroneous thinking. What about you?
Oh, 100%. Um, the message from that painting to create indulgently when it just seemed like a big mess, that was poignant because it required becoming uncomfortable, and it required just allowing it to flow, and it allowing yourself to feel, myself in this case, to feel how good that felt. It's what my heart was desiring, and I got to just do it, and it was like, more of this. And yeah, people get really stuck and not
Right,
honoring that, but we must let go
right,
of that and
right.
and
And
say
it's
yes.
almost like a therapy in a way, but it's
Yeah.
playful. It's playful where you become your own best expert with others who are expressing, and you go, "Oh, I see that." Like sometimes people will see something in my painting that I couldn't see, or what you're talking about reflecting. It's like the next day I look at it and I go, "Was that little Tinkerbell fairy in that last time I looked at it? No,
Yeah.
it's there now, but I didn't see it then. So there's a difference between looking and seeing and really reflecting. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Kind of opening our heart, creating this opening on all levels,
Right. Yeah.
uh, and allowing that to come and not trying to force it into, well, that looks like this, or I think that's that. Especially if we say I think, it's like, nah, just let
Yeah,
go.
it's kind of like I feel it's like opens up a portal, I think, more than the mind. The mind will stuck keep us in the safe, what will people think category. And
Yeah, I
being a
love the time.
unicorn, I'm being a
Right.
unicorn, and you're helping me become more and more proud of it.
Yes, because as it turns out, you're an artist.
Right.
You've been facilitating and holding space for artists. And guess what? Art leads. And you're finding art's leading. It's here we go. We're dropping in now. Like
Right.
art is leading you. You are
Right.
leading with your artistry.
Right.
And your art is taking you somewhere. It has a message. And it's revealing it, you know, each each time you show up, each
Right.
time there's suddenly there's like, wow, look at this.
There's
There's a pattern here. This is connected to that. That's like, ooh, you know.
yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, you had the discipline of painting every single day, never missing a day for a couple of years, right? And
Yes.
it was through that that your Linda Rasch method came through. It spoke to you. And that's kind of would you be able to tell the story about the painting behind you? Because that's
Oh,
kind of
sure.
like a culmination of many things that you start to witness and going, this is what's been unfolding all along with the Linda Rasch method, right? And it even gave more clarity to you. It's like there's levels of clarity. So this painting here, it tells it even more, I think, if I
Yeah.
recall.
I'm going to try to keep this like as net as I can. But the kind of the long and the short of it is that I was connecting to the levels of impact of the method of creating art, and again, in all its expressions. This happens to be mine. I really think it's potent. Love color. Color is healing. But what appears on this canvas are really almost miniatures of larger pieces of work that had a message. And so this piece is actually kind of like the big canvas of life, or in
Yeah,
the field.
yeah,
It's you'll see it in your own way, and my art really does want to speak for itself. It tells me that, but yet I think it's helpful to have some way of being able to relate to it. So this was that way of saying, okay, there's many ways, there's and 12 in particular ways that creating art, and not just creating, but 12 keys to opening yourself up to a breakthrough. They happen to be represented by these elements, and there's 12 of them. You see them here. And would it be helpful? Again, the ultimate outcome is the creative breakthrough, which is sort of represented by the slit in the canvas. I don't know if you can see that, but
yeah, yeah.
one of my cats knocked it over. I'm like, oh, this is the canvas for breakthroughs. I get it. All right, that'll be the one I use for this.
Right, right.
That's what it was about. Would you like me
Oh,
to?
yeah, I'd love for you to explain it because it goes back to part of the Linda Rasch method is to open up pathways to full, authentic self-expression that's innate for everyone who has the desire to be an entrepreneur. You might be one and feel stuck, or you might wish you could be one, or whatever it is, but the entrepreneur who's creating their own livelihood through something that they're passionate about comes through a process that I think this painting represents in terms of that breakthrough, because it's not always the way we think it's going to be, right? It's like there's a discovery that's right around the corner.
Yeah.
And I think that's partly what you're demonstrating by these 12 elements.
Hmm. Yeah. So well said. And you kind of, I want to honor you because you were the one who was like, well, how are you doing this? Everyone needs to know. And that was what part of what that little stand in
I
waiting
know.
room
Well,
was. It's
art's
like,
leading. If
oh, this
art's
is for me.
leading,
And now I have to make this about everyone. Oh,
right, right.
so, that was not easy. But what being in, letting go of the need to control it and get it right and whatever outcome there might be, all the things I talked about just a little bit ago, that's what came in here. This was not particularly easy, but I was clear that when I was asked about what are the benefits, what are the things that open up? And so these are each keys to the breakthrough, ultimate breakthrough, which is freedom. At the end of the day, it's freedom. We're seeking freedom, right? The freedom to express ourselves in a creative and meaningful way that's important to each of us. But it starts right here. This is the first key, and it is the key of self-esteem. And its message, as you can see, there's these little lines going in, they're pointing towards the center. It's a heart-shaped keyhole. The message is that it's all about you. Has to start there, right? And it's about you and what you desire. Could go on and on about it, but just take that as a moment. It might be a little bit like, oh, I could put me, it's all about me. That's not how we're taught. Is that okay? Yeah, absolutely. You must let it be all about you. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen. It's serving everybody else's purposes all the time. But we need this space. And so getting things movement, this piece is about movement. When you start to engage in the method and the practice, things get moving. It starts to open up intuition. You can see that there's some sparkly elements in there. I'll see if I can get it with my flashlight. You'll know it when it pops. These little
Right.
things sort of pop out. That's intuition. It shows up in a particular way. In the method, we're inviting you to, each of us, to notice the ways that that shows up. Our intuition, it pops. You'll know it when it pops. And then there's, self-expression, intuition, and vision. This is like a big V. I had a painting on the wall that it was just this giant, cheery V, and it was telling me it's about the big vision. Like, oh, big visions. All these V's kept coming through. And we got a little download coming in here. This is the vision. And then this expression is another one of the keys. That's self-express. That's the creating indulgently, like dancing like nobody's dancing. This is like this energy of letting
Hmm.
go.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
self-expression. Another key is clarity. Clarity, the light bulb comes on and the path starts to get lit up. That's ultimately one of the keys. Confidence. And I should have asked invited at the beginning, if you were looking at this, and was there one that was jumping out at you and grabbing your attention? Because whatever one that is, as I continue along here, there's a message for you. This piece is to speak to you in that regard and say, oh, that's something that's important to me, something that's desiring attention, something that wants more love or that I want to give to others. Just pay attention to that and just notice what comes through. So confidence, this is like this giant, infinity sign that's upright. It's very like sort of solid, right?
Hmm.
And I love that it's connected to self-expression. And the through line um, is to direction. This is another piece that was communicating. This is direction, right? It's like at the cutting edge. This is where you are in this process of like breaking through. But what I also like about this is that in addition to that direction forward, this is sort of very specifically like coming back to us. This light is going
Hmm.
out, but it's like reflecting on us as well. How are we doing so far, Renee?
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Inspiration. Inspiration, which just looks like this giant eye, right? It's like seeing and being lit up from within, seeing, our own inner vision being activated. And wisdom, this represented by this element. All these are interconnected, right? We're all along the way here. All what's coming through is sort of adding up. It's being, brought into and being added up in wisdom as what adds up to wisdom. It's connected through this sort of helix. And, I wanted to add another one here. It's yet to come. This open space is for what's next, which is really fun because I was talking about the path being lit up from the clarity that comes, this light bulb coming on when you engage in the method and the practice. this pathway, this sort of sparkly pathway, is like the way to your this rocket to launch your rocket of creativity,
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
let it take off. And ultimately, that leads to freedom, the freedom to express creatively without inhibition, without the need to get it right, wonder if it's okay, because it's your true heart's desire and it's been really illuminated in the process. So
Wow.
this is the piece meant to take these concepts that we talk about, but what is it and how do we know it? How can we possibly relate to it? I often will use my painting method in order to connect to those things and
Yeah.
to bring them to life in a way
Yeah.
that is more
It's
accessible.
just magical. I mean, I think that along the way, you didn't know that there were going to be 12. The painting spoke to you, but it's also kind of a culmination of a lot of the other paintings that you've been doing nonstop, painting every day for years. It's kind of like you've just really have cultivated a discipline to be fully self-expressed, allowing the art to guide you. And it's kind of like working with a poet in our mastermind. It's just beautiful and how her book's coming together. It's kind of like every process in the Linda Rasch method is opening up. And it's kind of like it's not just a one-time event. It's like you can go through it again and again and again. And it's almost like that spiral. Each time you go through it, you're at another level of awareness that's
Mhm.
happening. It's just such a beautiful, and that's why art leads science. If we get, remember Da Vinci is like he was an artist and a scientist, right? But in our world today, we have the artists over here, the scientists over here, you know what I mean? The cross-pollination that artists do naturally, that you're modeling through this Linda Rasch method is remarkable. I
Mm.
think it's a requirement for people to get out of their own way because we're all here for a reason, but we just forgot what it was. We got to create this space and show up, right?
Right, absolutely. And what kind of breakthrough are we talking about? We're talking about people who always did want to create art like me, who suddenly are like within a short window of time, creating and selling their work for thousands of dollars rather than promoting someone else's work like they had been, or someone who is a jewelry artist and not creating, suddenly making her fine art again and being like, oh my God, I've never had this experience of like just being this consistent. And I love that. And, on and on, the poetry, the book of poetry, this life's calling. I've been creating poetry whole life. Now it's out into the world and it's coming out. And I just want to say here because it's my nature. It's like it's not like this is the only thing, right? This is each of us has done a million things to try to get to the core of what's important and to each of us, and this is a way of opening up that breakthrough, whatever it is.
Right, right,
Like your work, Renee Beth, with living the
right,
potential,
right.
being part of your community. That was essential in order to, and you being such a cheerleader and an advocate and a staunch, like,
Uh,
art leads, like, you need
Thanks.
to codify this. What's going on here? Like,
Right, right.
okay, all right.
Well, it's kind of it's the other aspect here that you mentioned briefly is the spiritual attunement.
Mhm.
And I think, again, it's in our society, there's a distinction between spiritual and religious, right? But let's say a spiritual method is like, how do you tune in, and how is that expressed? So some people may say, well, I have a meditation practice. And I'll say, well, I do too. And I realize that there's so much more that wants to come through, but I haven't created space for it. And so I started playing with the Linda Rasch method. Suddenly, source, God, spirit is coming through me. I felt it before, but now I'm sensing it at a deeper level because I have another medium for it to be reflected that's beyond my mind trying to figure it out. So that's what I mean in terms of the depth of the process that you've created can open up people to a new awareness that they didn't even know that they had because you create a playful space for that to be unfolded. It's kind of like a natural way. It's not like, I know there's some people that I compare when I'm painting and so forth to, well, I, I still am in that path. And I didn't think I was about comparing myself to other people and judging myself harshly, like, well, that one's better than mine. And it's kind of like, I've been helping people get over that they're not enough for eons. And here I am. It's like that little 5-year-old girl when I was in kindergarten and the nuns slapped me on the hand and said, no, those flowers are supposed to be this color, not that color, or your tree isn't green enough or tall enough or whatever. I still have those voices in my head after years of personal growth and development. So I'm just saying, if you're listening to this podcast and you're wondering, really? Can you let go of all that stuff that's lying in there dormant? And I'm going, yeah, it takes a little bit of a play and safe place, but absolutely. The artist leads. Thank you so much, Linda. Is there
Thank you.
anything that you would like to add? I think people would love to know how to get in touch with you, how to, and we'll have it in the credits and so forth, but could you just direct people to how can they find out more about Linda Rasch Method, your mastermind, and if you're an entrepreneur, what's in it for them? I think those are 3 questions all wrapped in one.
It is. Oh, okay. All right. Well, to get in touch, I would visit the Linda Rasch Method. That's the Linda, last name RASCH, method.com. And that's where the details about the course and the practice are available. There's some samples of the lessons, there's testimonials, there's more elucidation of the method itself, like the steps of the practice. So I'd invite you to go there and check it out. And if it resonates for you, there's a very special invitation there for you as members of the Living the Potential Network community. So grateful for you and so glad you're here today. I forgot the other 2 questions.
Okay, another question. The question is, if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, what would be the benefit, would you say? Because you're working with quite a few entrepreneurs that are getting unstuck and playing with a possible breakthrough, creating the impossible from
Right.
their mind perspective, and something powerful is coming through. So, other than what I just said, what else is there for entrepreneurs to check you out?
Yeah, well, I think one of the really important things is that creativity and a means in order to tap into it and to unlock it and use it as a strategic tool, it helps clear the fog of confusion and allows us to step into the light of clear strategic thinking. And that's a big deal for people. A lot of the people that show up in my world are visionaries, they're outside the box thinkers, people who challenge the status quo, innovators. And so the ability to tap into creativity on demand, get unstuck. It's expensive to stay stuck. Uh,
Yes.
it's expensive. Uh, and so the quicker we can get out of that and into the next step, onto the next step of what it is that we're creating to move on to that piece that's needed next is just so powerful. There's no reason to suffer. It's optional, although we certainly understand why it happens. So other benefits, just besides the self-discovery and what's ignited there on the path of
Yeah.
embracing one's personal growth, the self-confidence, calming the self-doubt that can happen, when we're not seeing results, fostering a natural sense of value and worth. You spoke about worthiness. That's a really quick hit. And I think that's so important. That's where the confidence comes from. It's
Right.
yes.
That's beautiful because, oh man, it goes beyond the mind's ability to figure it out. And all of you who are so well schooled, this is a place to come and play and unfold for you that's something that's already there that you didn't know. And maybe you didn't think it would be important, but it's essential for the breakthrough. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, Linda Rasch, thank you so much. You're just an amazing inspiration for so many of us in our community. And you absolutely put the exclamation mark on my favorite quote that art leads, no matter how you look at it. Art is leading the path for transformation personally and collectively. So thank you so much for bringing who you are to what you do and being a part of our community.
Thank you, Renee, Beth, and thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure.